Hi everyone. This video, I like to call it Transformer Oil 001. The intention of this video is to give you a very fundamental understanding of the functionality of the transformer oil, why we use it, what is their advantages, what are their types, and some related basic fundamental issues as well. To start with, start talking about the advantages of the transformer oil. What is special about transformer oil? As we know, we have three different types of insulating materials. We have air or gases, we have oil, and we have solid. So the oil in certain applications is more useful than both the gases and the solid insulating material. Why is that? First of all, there is something common between the oil and the solid that both has very high dielectric strength compared to the gases. For example, air, the breakdown for air happens at around 22 kilovolt per centimeter. So when the electric field reach that level, there will be a breakdown. But in transformer oil, and this is for new transformer oil that will be used for distribution transformer, the breakdown voltage is 240 kilovolt per centimeter. You see, much higher. And if I'm using the oil for power transformer, the value will be even higher than 240 kilovolt per centimeter. Also, the solid insulating materials will have as well very high dielectric strength. So that is an advantage of both oil and solid. On the other hand, there is another advantage of the oil and the gases, that because of the flexibility of these two materials, it can be used to fill any gap, it can be used to fill any volume. So for example, if you want to fill a tank of a transformer, then oil will be can be used to do that. Yes, we use some solid insulating materials, but we cannot fill the gap with solid materials. But of course, gases and oil can be used for that. So you see here that the oil has certain advantages along with the solid versus the gases, and another advantage with the gases together, the same advantage versus the solid. So that makes the oil very unique. Also, and compared to both the gases and the solid, the oil has much higher heat transfer capability. And why this is important? For example, when we talk about transformer, there is a current in the winding and there will be an I square R losses. There is a losses in the core. So these losses in the winding and the core, this is heat, and this will increase the temperature of the transformer, especially the transformer paper. And once the temperature of the transformer paper increase at certain level, this will lead to an accelerated aging and reduces the life of the transformer overall. So oil has this good capability of transferring the heat very efficiently from the source, which is the transformer core and winding, to the outside, to the air outside of the transformer, which will cool down the transformer winding insulating paper. Now, what are the different types of the transformer oil? The first type and the most common one used, and this is we extract it from crude oil, we call it mineral oil. And as you see here for the chemical composition, it's basically a hydrocarbon material. So we have carbon and we have hydrogen atoms. Okay, and I want you to keep this in mind because I will show a video when there is a breakdown in oil, you will see a lot of carbon released, and this is because this mineral oil has in its chemical composition carbon. Now the the mineral oil, as I said, is very cheap and it has many good properties. However, one of the disadvantages of the mineral oil, it's flammable. So at certain temperature, the transformer will get fire, and this is of course very dangerous. and especially if the transformer is installed in critical loads, like for example high-rise buildings, which is will become very hard to reach to the transformers. Imagine you have a high-rise building and in one of the high floors there is a fire. So how you extinguish that fire? And some other critical load like hospitals or schools. Also, you don't want to have a transformer that might get fire. So for this, we use either dry type transformers, which is not the topic of today's seminar, but we have another type of oils under synthetic oil that has a much, much higher flammable temperature. And one of the common ones is the solid silicon oil. And the silicon here, we don't have the hydrocarbon. On the contrary, we have what we call a siloxane. So we have silicon, oxygen, silicon, oxygen. Uh, Now, the silicon oil has this advantage, but silicon oil has one of the major advantages, of course, for any engineering product is the cost. The cost of the mineral oil is much, much less than the silicon oil, which limit its usage. Another oil that has been used in the past, which is the ascaral oil, or we call it polychlorinated biphenyl, or PCB for short. Now that oil was very common in the 60s, but in the early 70s it's completely banned because people discovered that there is toxic materials there and it's very dangerous. So no one is using it anymore. However, now we have some very old transformers, and we have to be careful with this material. I remember in my factory, I worked as a transformer engineer for a while. We have like a small tank of BCB oil, and this is treated like very dangerous material, very toxic material. So it has to be completely sealed, and it has to be well tagged, and has to be placed in certain area. You can't just go and throw it. The last type of oil is the vegetable oils. There are many vegetables nowadays around us. We will extract from them oil, and after certain treatment, they use them as insulating material in transformer. This is a hot area in research, but also it's available as a commercial product. Certain countries like in Australia now, they are using the transformer, I think, for vegetable oil in the transformer for more than 15 years. Okay, now vegetable oils, the main motive to use it or the incentive to use it, basically two main reasons. The first one is mineral oil is bad for the environment because it's not biodegradable material. Vegetable oil, in the other hand, is a very good biodegradable material. The second reason, as I mentioned earlier, mineral oil is extracted from crude oil, and all of us know at certain time there will be no enough supply of crude oil, so we need alternatives, and vegetable oil now so far is the most important or the most suitable candidate to replace mineral oil. But as we speak, mineral oil is still is the most common type of oil used in transformers. Another usage of the transformer oil, uh, which is not very much highlighted, is the analogy between the transformer oil or the human blood. And I'd like to borrow this and acknowledge this. My colleague, Dr. Ali Nadirian, who is a transformer specialist, he used that and I liked his analogy, and I'd like to share part of it, not the whole of it. Now, when we feel sick, we go to the doctor, and many times the doctor will take a sample from our blood. Why the blood? Blood is a liquid and it is circulating in all our body, and if there is anything bad, it will be somehow dissolved in the oil. It will have a signature in the blood. And for example, if you have diabetes, if you have cholesterol, the sample of the blood will actually show traces of that specific problem. Now, that is the same thing in transformer oil. In transformer oil, if there's an arc, a discharge, it will have a signature there. So here, I will show this very short video in a slow motion. When we have a breakdown between these two electrodes, see what will happen, what will be released in the oil after this discharge happens. So here we will have the discharge happening now, see, and arc there, and you can see a lot of carbon released, and now we understand why we have this carbon. because of the oil itself is a hydrocarbon material. So when we have high energy, that will release some of the carbon. Now the carbon is not a good insulating material. So as we have more and more discharges, more and more aging from other factors, the oil will degrade gradually. So we need to know the status of the oil to be able to tell about the life of the transformer. So we take regularly samples from the transformer oil and we conduct several tests. Now these are some samples of the tests that we do on the transformer. My intention is not to go in details in each one, but we'll talk very brief. Maybe in another video I will talk about that in details. So for example, the dielectric breakdown voltage, basically we take a sample. I mentioned earlier that, for example, for distribution transformer, for new oil, the breakdown is 240 kilovolt per centimeter. Now, when the transformer oil start to age, we start to have carbon. So its dielectric will start to decrease. Then we need to see that. We need to measure that and see how much right now. And there is certain threshold value after which we consider the oil is extremely bad. Water content, different reasons, some of them chemical, some of them because of the environment. The transformer can catch some water there, and we need to make sure that the oil doesn't reach certain dangerous level. Interfacial tension, which is basically a measure or an indirect measure of availability of polar material like water in oil. Furan analysis is something very important. Now, the most of the tests I'm showing you here, it shows that whenever there's something or reflects the quality of the oil, but the furan basically it reflects the quality of the insulating paper, and it's non-intrusive. But again, we take just a sample from the oil, and by knowing the values of the furan, we can actually have an idea about the quality of the insulating paper. Dissolved gas analysis. I showed you an arc in the previous slide. Now we could have different types of arcing and discharges in the oil. Some of them high energy, some of them with low energy, some of them just partial discharge. And each type of failure or fault will release certain gases. So by knowing these gases, we can actually know the type of faults that happens in the transformer. Again, transformer is subject to chemical reactions. One of them is the oxidation. And by knowing the acidity or the acidic number inside the transformer oil, this will also can give us some good idea about the quality of the oil. So that is a very brief, short video, gives you some important information about the transformer oil.